The Indian Ocean Raid, known in Japan as Operation Sea, was a naval sortie by the fast carrier strike force of the Imperial Japanese Navy from the 31st of March to the 10th of April 1942 against Allied shipping and bases in the Indian Ocean. It was an early engagement of the Pacific Campaign of World War II. The Japanese under Chūichi Nagumo compelled part of the Allied, largely Royal Navy, forces to retreat to East Africa. But Admiral Sir James Somerville kept his fast carrier division, Force A, quote, in Indian waters, to be ready to deal with any attempt by the enemy to command those waters with light forces only. Quote, prelude. The island of Ceylon was strategically important, since it commanded the Indian Ocean. Thus it controlled access to India, the vital Allied shipping routes to the Middle East and the oil fields of the Persian Gulf. Ceylon held most of the British Empire's resources of rubber, an important harbour and naval base. Trincomalee was located on the island's eastern coast. Japanese propaganda had an effect on some of the Sinhalese population, who now awaited their arrival. The fall of Singapore on 15 February 1942 broke the United Kingdom's eastern defensive perimeter of the Bay of Bengal, and Japanese occupation of the Andaman Islands on 23 March 1942 gave Japan control of the Andaman Sea, enabling ships to resupply Japanese troops in the Burma campaign for control of India. Both German and British authorities anticipated Japanese capture of Ceylon to solidify control of the Bay of Bengal and disrupt British resupply for defense of India, Australia, and perhaps the Middle East. Ceylon was hastily garrisoned by Australian troops returning from North Africa, and HMS Indomitable was relieved of naval duties to serve as a high-speed aircraft ferry shuttling available planes to Ceylon. Raid. First moves. Following the destruction of the American, British, Dutch, Australian command forces in the battles around Java in February and March, the Japanese sortied into the Indian Ocean to destroy British sea power there and support the invasion of Burma. The Japanese force, commanded by Admiral Chūichi Nagumo, had 6 carriers: Akagi, Raijo, Hiryu, Soryu, Shokaku, and Zuikaku. This powerful force left Staring Bay, Celebes on 26 March 1942, to meet the expected IJN foray into the Indian Ocean. Admiral Somerville had assembled a large fleet consisting of Force A with 2 modern aircraft carriers, 1 modernized battleship, HMS Warspite, along with a number of cruisers and destroyers, and Force B consisting of 4 older, unmodernized R-class battleships, the light aircraft carrier HMS Hermes along with an escort of cruisers and destroyers. Somerville also deployed a small number of submarines. Signal decrypts provided the British commander of the Eastern Fleet, Vice Admiral Sir James Somerville, with warning of the Japanese sortie, and Somerville sortied from Port T. Adu Atoll, in the Maldive Islands, to meet the attack expected on 2 April. But Nagumo had delayed the Japanese sortie by several days. When the expected attack on Ceylon failed to take place, Somerville sent the carrier HMS Hermes back to Trincomalee, Ceylon, for repairs in preparation for Operation Ironclad. Escorted by the Australian destroyer HMAS Vampire, the heavy cruiser HMS Cornwall was sent to Ceylon to meet a troop convoy along with Dorsetshire, which wished to continue a needed refit. The first Japanese raids were against shipping in the Bay of Bengal by the carrier Raijo and 6 cruisers under the command of Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa beginning on 4 April 1942. They sank 23 ships. 5 more were sunk by submarines off India's west coast. On the evening of 4 April, The Japanese fleet was detected 400 miles, 350 nmi, 640 kilometers, south of Ceylon by a Catalina flying boat flown by squadron leader Leonard Birchall of 413 Squadron, Royal Canadian Air Force. The location of the fleet was transmitted before the Catalina was shot down by an A6M20 fighter from Hoyu. Upon receipt of Birchall's warning, Somerville again sortied from Ado Atoll as soon as his ships were ready to sail. But his fleet was now too far west to intercept the Japanese raid prior to its first attack against Ceylon. Attack on Colombo. On 5 April 1942, the Japanese struck with a force of 125 aircraft, made up of 36 Aichi D-3A2 dive bombers and 53 Nakajima B-5N2 torpedo bombers, with 36 Zero fighters as escort. The aircraft, under the command of Commander Mitsuo Fuchida of Akagi, who had led the attack on Pearl Harbor, made landfall near Gaul. The planes flew up the coast for half an hour in full view from land. But the RAF was not informed at Ramalana. RAF aircraft were on the ground as the Japanese flew overhead. The Japanese attacked the naval base at Colombo, Ceylon, sinking the armed merchant cruiser HMS Hector, which was due to be released back to trade, and the old destroyer HMS Tenedos in the harbor. 18 Japanese planes were lost to heavy anti-aircraft fire. The Japanese only admitted to 5 losses, 3 of them overland, as only 3 destroyed planes were discovered on land. The RAF lost at least 27 aircraft. Japanese search planes located Cornwall and Dorsetshire, commanded by Captain Augusta Sagar, 200 miles, 170 nmi, 320 kilometers, southwest of Ceylon, where they were proceeding at high speed to rejoin Somerville's command. A second attack wave sank the ships, killing 424 men. In the late afternoon, just before sunset, at 16:55 and again at 18:00, on 5 April 1942, 2 Royal Navy ferry albacores operating from the British aircraft carriers made contact with the Japanese carriers. Before an accurate sighting report could be made, one albacore was shot down and the other damaged, frustrating Admiral Somerville's plans for a retaliatory night strike by his ASV radar-equipped albacore strike bombers. Somerville continued to probe for the IJN carriers on the night of 5 April 1942, failing to find the IJN ships. The RN's only opportunity to launch a strike against enemy aircraft carriers faded away. On 6 April, heavy cruisers Kumano and Suzuya with destroyer Shirakumo sank the British merchant ships Silksworth, Autolycus, Mulder and Xinquang, and the American ship Exmoor. Also on 6 April, the Indian sloop HMIS Indus was sunk by air attack off the coast of Burma, off Akyab, Trincomalee and Bataclan. On 9 April, the Japanese attacked the harbour at Trincomalee at 07:00. The British again had warning of the attack, and the carrier Hermes and her escorts had left the night before. They were returning to port when they were discovered at 08:55. Hermes had no aircraft on board, and so was defenseless when 70 bombers attacked her at 10:35 off Bataclan. Hit 40 times, Hermes sank with a loss of 307 men. The destroyer HMAS Vampire and the corvette HMS Hollyhock were also sunk. The hospital ship Vita later picked up 590 survivors. The RAF lost at least 8 Hawker Hurricanes and the Fleet Air Arm 1 Fairey Fulmar. The Japanese lost 5 bombers and 6 fighters, 1 in a suicide attack on the Trincomalee fuel tanks. During the day, 9 of the Royal Air Force's No. 11 Squadron Bristol Blenheim bombers made the first ever Allied air attack against Nagumo's carrier force, bombing from 11,000 feet, 3,300 meters. They scored no hits while losing 5 of their number to the striking force's combat air patrol A6M20s, 4 over the IJN carriers, 2 of which were claimed by Kaname Harada, and 1 due to an encounter with IJN aircraft returning from the Hummies raid, but in return shot down 1-0. Aftermath. The Japanese sortie demonstrated their superiority in carrier operations, and revealed that the RAF had not had time to fully prepare its Ceylon-based defences. But it did not destroy British naval power in the Indian Ocean. Through the use of signal intercepts, decryption, reconnaissance and superior radar, Somerville was able to save the bulk of his fleet, including the carriers HMS Indomitable and Formidable, to fight another day. However, it might equally be said that the errors made by the Royal Navy meant that the main fleet from Adu was not able to make contact with Nagumo's force as it intended. It must also be stated that the Japanese fleet under Admiral Nagumo never located Admiral Somerville's main fleet, while Nagumo's carriers were subjected to their first ever bombing attack on 9 April 1942. An invasion was feared by the British, who interpreted the Japanese failure to do so as due to heavy losses over Ceylon, and hence led to claims of a British victory. However, in reality the Japanese did not have the men, shipping or land-based air power to spare for an invasion and occupation, and were not even in a position to make a temporary occupation as a raid. The island did not face a real threat of invasion at any point during the war. Japanese plans were already made for a submarine base on the island of Madagascar to attack Allied shipping routes. The Royal Navy forestalled any attempt by the Japanese to establish a base on Madagascar by seizing that island in May 1942 during Operation Ironclad. That the British expected invasion from their mastery of Japanese codes and other sources is borne out by a speech that Admiral Sir Geoffrey Layton, the commander of Ceylon, made in mid-April to personnel of the damaged airfield at China Bay in Trincomalee Harbour. He warned them, "The Japanese fleet has retired to Singapore to refuel and rearm, and to organize an invasion force, which we think is coming back to attack us." Quote, 3 British Army divisions came to strengthen Ceylon's defences against Japan and against a possible internal anti-British uprising. Also, measures to improve morale were implemented, such as ensuring Sinhalese food rations were increased. Several minor mutinies against the British by native soldiers were quickly put down. Admiral Sir G. Layton remained in Ceylon for most of the war. Later, Ceylon would become an important base for operations in support of Burma and carrier raids against Indonesia. See also Southeast Asian theatre of World War II. The Easter Sunday raid on Colombo. Indian Ocean disaster. Battle of Madagascar. Cocos Islands mutiny. Notes. Books. Brown, David. 1990. Warship losses of World War II. Naval Institute Press. ISBN 1-55750-914-X. Crush, Noel. The Cocos Islands Mutiny. Fremantle. Fremantle Arts Centre Press. 2001. Dalbers, Andrew. 1965. Death of a Navy. Japanese naval action in World War II. Devon Adair Pub. ISBN 0-8159-5302-X. Dull, Paul S. 1978. A Battle History of the Imperial Japanese Navy. 1941 to 1945. Naval Institute Press. ISBN 0-87021-097-1. Gill, G. Herman. 1968. Volume 2, Royal Australian Navy. 1942–1945. Australia in the War of 1939–1945. Canberra. Australian War Memorial. Retrieved 20 November 2006. Morrison, Samuel Eliot. 2001. 1958. The Rising Sun in the Pacific 1931 April 1942. Volume 3 of History of United States Naval Operations in World War II. Castle Books. ISBN 0-7858-1304-7. Partial. Jonathan. Tully. Anthony. 2005. Shattered Sword. The Untold Story of the Battle of Midway. Dulles, Virginia. Potomac Books. ISBN 1-57488-923-0. Uses recently translated Japanese sources. Roskell, Stephen. 1956. War at Sea 1939–1945. Volume 2. The Period of Balance. United Kingdom Military Series. London. HMSO. Retrieved 2 September 2015. Shores. Christopher. Brian Cole. Yasuho Izawa. 2002. Bloody Shambles. Volume 1. The Drift to War to the Fall of Singapore. Grub Street. Shores. Christopher. Brian Cole. Yasuho Izawa. 1993. Bloody Shambles. Volume 2. The Defense of Sumatra to the Fall of Burma. Grub Street. Tomlinson. Michael. The Most Dangerous Moment. The Japanese Assault on Ceylon 1942. London. William Kimber & Co. Limited. 1976. ISBN 955564000-9. Order of Battle. WW2DB. Com. Raids into Indian Ocean. Royal Air Force History. Battle for Ceylon.